Hey, what's happening, y'all? It's me coming back at you again with another vid. Well, Badu Jack has called out Adonis Stevenson again. Yeah, again. You know, it's funny though, because I forgot to bring this up when I had this little spat, this little exchange between me and Low Place. But anyways, it is what it is. Now, apparently, Badu Jack has moved up to 175, which we already know. That's already been done after his fight with James DeGale in that unification bout for the 168-pound titles. All right. Now, of course, that fight ended up in a draw. I mean, it could have gone either way. I thought DeGale pulled it out slightly, but of course, Jack came back. It was a good back and forth fight, but you know, it is what it is. Anyways. Badu Jack moving up to 175 wanted an immediate shot at Adonis Stevenson. All right. Now, apparently, according to Jack, they were trying to make that fight happen with his camp and then Stevenson's camp, but Stevenson opted to fight from far instead in a rematch. Okay. So this is what Jack had to say about the situation. First, I want to say is that, quote, I wanted to fight Stevenson to start, but he was so busy or whatever the case may be. But it looks like I'll have to fight I will have Cleverly, maybe, because right now he is trying to seal a deal with Nathan Cleverly, who is the WBA regular light heavyweight champion. So if that fight does come to fruition, then that will be placed on the undercard of Mayweather versus McGregor, which is the circus act of a fight. Anyways, moving along here. Now, Badu Jack was also asked about the potential unification undisputed championship between Andre Ward and Adonis Stevenson. He said, look, you know, that is a good fight. Stevenson's got that big left hand. However, Ward is the better boxer and the better fighter, period. And I think, but anything can happen. But anything can happen in boxing, which is true, because anything can happen. You get caught with one clean shot, it's over. All right? Now, if Jack does get his wish, he will fight Stevenson before the Ward fight becomes about. If Stevenson and Ward doesn't, if the Ward and Stevenson fight doesn't happen, so we'll see. And Jack concluded by saying, "Look, I'm taking it one fight at a time. Hopefully, if I can get the Stevenson fight, but first I have to take care of Cleverly. If that's the man, then if it is that man, then you know we'll see what happens from there." So. Yeah, it definitely be an interesting fight between the two. Stylistically, very good matchup. You have Stevenson who can fight from off the back foot very well. He can box as well. He can fight from the inside as well. But the thing about Stevenson, man, he's got that power in that left hand. So what Jack's going to have to do, he's going to have to find a way to nullify that left hand, because once it lands with force, man, it's done. The one thing that Stevenson, that Badu Jack can do, and he's a very good inside fighter, so that can play to his advantage to some degree. As I also mentioned, that Stevenson is a very good inside fighter as well. But the one thing I would say is that Jack does have the endurance advantage, because Stevenson has gassed out in fights when they do go the distance. So we see him gassed out against the first Von Farr fight, and he did gas out a bit in the Sakio Bika fight. So if Jack can dig him to the body and try to nullify his left hand, then Jack does have a chance in this fight. However, I would have to go in favor of Stevenson, though. You know, if you're looking at overall experience and who's and so forth. But needless to say, very interesting fight. Hopefully it does come off. However, if the Ward and Stevenson fight comes about, then definitely I'm gonna clamor for that fight. I'm gonna support that fight over Badu Jack and Adonis Stevenson fight. So, yeah. Well, I mean, there's nothing more to be said about it. But other than that, I'm gonna move on to some other news here. I know about the Cameron Rigondeaux and the Vasile Lomachenko situation. Let me just say one thing about this. I know the Rigondeaux fight, the first time it didn't come about because Rigondeaux wasn't satisfied with some of the terms in the contract that when the fight was offered to him, so that's why he opted out of it. Yes, it's a duck on Rigondeaux's part, I will say that. However, now Lomachenko's team, Igor Klimas, who is also the manager of Sergey Kovalev, is saying, look, the fight is if it's gonna happen, it has to happen at 130, period. So Rigo team's like, okay, let's do it. Let's make the fight happen at 130. So now Cleveland is coming out and saying that, well, you know what, you're going to have to talk to Bob Arum because I don't make the fights happen. What? Wait a minute. Hold on here. Hold up. You're the guy who's calling out everybody at 130, right? You're the guy who's calling out everybody to fight your fighter. But now you're saying that, well, I don't make the fights happen, so you got to talk to Bob Arum. I mean, what kind of cop-out is that, man? Either you want the fight with Rigo-Lomo or you don't want the fight with Rigo-Lomo. Come on, make up your mind. All right? Here's what I have to say about this. I'm not going to comment any further about that fight. I'm going to just sit back and wait until it happens. That's all I can say. All right? Now, as far as that Deontay Wilder and the Dillian White situation. All right. Here's what I got to say about this, y'all. Now, I like Deontay Wilder, all right? He's one of my favorite heavyweights out there. Real talk. But sometimes you got to criticize him where you need to criticize him, all right? Here's the thing. He was offered $3 million to come over to the UK and fight Dillian White, all right? Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate on both sides here. Wilder's argument is like, look, I'm the champion here. Why do you guys get to dictate terms? This is going to Eddie Hearn now, all right? He's saying, look, I'm the champion. I should dictate terms. Why should I go fly over to the UK for $3 million to fight Dillian White, okay? Now Wilder's saying, look, I will only take the fight if I'm paid $7 million. Now, I'm sitting back and thinking to myself, wait a minute. Hold on here. Now, for one, I do agree with Wilder. He is a champion. He should be able to dictate terms, okay? However, there are exceptions that can be made, as I've been very consistent about. First things first, only time that a champion does not get to dictate terms if they're going up against another fighter who has a better pedigree, who has a far better resume, who's been rated one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world, who's a multi-champion, okay? Multi-time champion. That's the only time that person who's not the champion should be the A-side over the other champion like Deontay Wilder, who doesn't really have a resume to show for it. But however, in this situation, Deontay Wilder does have a resume, and he is the champion. Dillian White doesn't have any world-level opposition. I mean, Derek Chisora, yeah, but Derek Chisora, is way past his best. Let's not get it twisted, all right? Okay, moving along here. So, now, before I move along, my thing about Wilder is like, look, $3 million is your biggest payday. I mean, Povetkin, you would have gotten the same amount if you fought him, or maybe $4 million if you got, if that fight had came about. Only Povetkin hadn't fucked up in this situation by failing 2 different drug tests and whatnot, but it is what it is. But it's Dillian White $7 million to come over to fight in the UK. Can we honestly believe that? Come on, man. Now you got Dillian White going on Twitter taunting Deontay, saying, "Look, you're turning down your biggest payday to fight me. You only got paid $900,000 to fight what's his name, Gerald Washington. I thought he got paid $1 million for that, but let me go back and check on that. But yeah, I mean, let's just call it what it is, guys. Wilder is pricing himself out against Dillian White. There's no way around it. There is no way around it. All right. Everybody want to call it a duck. It is a duck to some degree. But, I just don't like the fact that, you're pricing yourself out against a guy who I really don't believe he's worth $7 million. Let's be honest, okay? But like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate here. I can understand Wilder from his perspective is saying, look, I'm the champion. I get to dictate terms. But at the same time, you're asking for a high price tag for a guy who doesn't really have a record on world level. Okay? So let's move on to the Joseph Parker situation. Yes. Joseph Parker versus Huey Fury has been scheduled for September 23rd. It's going to take place in Manchester, England. All right. Now we all could go back and say, look, the original fight didn't take place is because Huey Fury pulled out due to a back injury. All right, which I think is bullshit. The reason why I say it's bullshit is because we all know that Huey Fury pulled out of the fight, or his team not pulled out. They initially didn't want that fight in New Zealand, although that Parker's promoters at that time, Duco's Events, they're the ones who actually won the purse bid, right? They were able to get to dictate the terms. So Huey Fury, his team tried to pull out. They tried to get the fight over to Manchester at the very last minute, and then all of a sudden they abruptly pull out of the fight due to the injury, which is a cop-out. Now, this is nothing new when it comes to Huey Fury, all right? Because he's notorious for pulling out big fights or turning down big fights, all right? The list goes on. Goes to Anthony Joshua. I think it also goes to Dillian White. so forth, I think. But he has. I'm sorry, as I was saying, sorry for the technical difficulties there. Now, back to Huey Fury, him pulling out of fights. He is notorious for doing that. It is what it is. All right. Now, the question is why was Huey Fury being able to maintain his mandatory position after the fact that he pulled out of the original fight due to an injury? I don't care if it's an injury or not. When a guy pulls out of his mandatory obligated fight, he needs to be stripped of that status. All right, that's just my opinion on it. But the WBO elected to allow him to keep it, so the fight will go. Now the question is Joseph Parker ducking Deontay Wilder based off the fact that he's going ahead and take care of his mandatory. Now here's the way I look at it. All right, now quote me if I'm wrong on this. I'm wrong on this, anyone. Now, from my understanding, is that since Huey Fury has been able to keep his mandatory status after Joseph Parker had beaten, I forgot the guy's name, his sparring partner. I forgot the dude's name. I mean, he was a last-minute replacement after the fact that Huey Fury pulled out of the fight. What's that guy's name? I have to look him up. What's his name? What's his name? What's that guy's name? Oh yeah, Razvan Kajano. Okay. After that fight, I believe, from my understanding, that Fury's team had called for immediate purse bid. Okay, when a purse bid is called, there are no exceptions. No exceptions can be made where the champion can go after a unification bout, like with Deontay Wilder, for example. Once a purse bid has been called, you cannot back out of it. All right, as a champion, the only thing you can do is vacate your title. So there are no exceptions that can be made in that situation. That's just from my understanding. I could be wrong about this. If anybody has information about that, please let me know. Now, if a purse bid was never called, but yet Parker went ahead and elected to fight Fury instead, so then okay, fine, we can call that a bit of a duck. Okay, we can call that a duck. But until I see if anybody can show me information where the purse bid was not called, but to my understanding it was called, which prevented Parker to go after a unification bout with either Wilder or Joshua. So that's my understanding on that, guys. So that's my take on it. So I mean, it's a little bit of a craziness when it comes to the heavyweight scenes these days. So you got Joshua tied up between two different mandatories with Ortiz and Pulev. You got Parker with the Huey Fury situation, and you got Wilder with the Stevenson situation. So it's a bit of a mess right now. So I mean, obviously, to solve this problem, I agree all fighters need to go ahead and fight for a unification bout. But I don't know, man. It's just a little bit of a mess. People calling out each other, this, that, and the third. And then when one of those fighters answers the call out, then you got complications with the negotiation process. So it's a bit of a mess here. So we got to get this resolved one way or the other. I mean, because it's really damaging boxing when you have fighters that can't really come to terms after the fact that all these call-outs are being made and so forth. So, yeah, that's just my take on it, guys. Let me know what your thoughts about this. I'm out.